Okay. Resistance. Resistance is what happens when we have a new project that we need to work on and simply can't bring ourselves to do it. It is when we get into a great new relationship and then keep bailing on plans. It is when we get an amazing idea for our business and then feel tension and anger when it comes time to sit down and actually get to work. We often feel resistance in the face of what's going right in our lives, not what's going wrong. When we when we have a problem to solve, resistance is usually nowhere to be found. But when we have something to enjoy, create, or build, we are tapping into a part of ourselves that is trying to thrive instead of just survive. And the unfamiliarity can be daunting. daunting. Okay. How to resolve this? Resistance is your way of slowing down and making sure that it's safe to get attached to something new and important. In other cases, it can also be a warning sign that something isn't quite right and you might need to step back or regroup. Resistance is not the same thing as procrastination or indifference, and shouldn't be treated as such. When we are experiencing resistance, there is always a reason, and we have to pay attention. If we try to force ourselves to perform in the face of resistance, it usually intensifies the feeling as we are strengthening the internal conflict and triggering the fear that's holding us back in the first place. Instead, Instead, releasing resistance requires us to refocus. We have to get clear on what we want, as well as when and why we want it. We have to identify we have to identify we have to identify unconscious beliefs that are preventing us from showing up, and then we have to step back into the work when we feel inspired. Wanting is the enter way to showing up after resistance. Hitting your upper limit. As discussed before, there is only a certain amount of happiness that most of us will allow ourselves to feel. Gay Hendricks Gay Hendricks call this your upper limit. Your upper limit your upper limit is essentially the amount of good that you are comfortable having in your life. It is your tolerance and threshold for having positive feelings or experiencing positive events. When you being to surpass your upper limit, you start to unconsciously sabotage what's happening in order to bring yourself back to what's comfortable and familiar. For some people, this manifests physically, often as pains, headaches, or physical tensions. For others, it manifests emotionally as resistance, anger, guilt, or fear. It might seem totally counterintuitive, counterintuitive, but we are not really weird to be happy. We are weird to be comfortable, and anything that is outside of that realm of comfort feels threatening or scary until we are familiar with it. How to resolve this? Hitting your upper limit is a really great sign. It means that you are approaching and surpassing new levels of your life, and that is first and foremost something to congratulate yourself for. The way you resolve an upper limit problem is by slowly accumulating yourself to your new normal. Instead of shocking yourself into big changes, allow yourself to slowly adjust and adapt. By taking it slow, you are allowing yourself to gradually reinstate a new comfort zone around what you want your life to be. Over time, you gradually shift your baseline to a new standard. Uprooting. Uprooting happens when someone finds themselves jumping from relationship to relationship or changing their business website again and again, when they really need to focus on converting relationships issues when they arise, or taking care of clients they already have. In uprooting, you are not allowing yourself to blossom. You are only comfortable with the process of sprouting. It might be constantly needing a fresh start, which is often the result of not having healthy ways to deal with stress or struggle with conflict resolution. Uprooting can be a way of diverting attention from the actual problems in your life, as your attention must go toward reestablishing oneself at a new job or in a new town. Ultimately, uprooting means you are always just beginning your new chapter but never really finished it. Despite your efforts to keep moving on, you ended up more stuck than ever before. How to resolve this? First, recognizing the pattern. First, recognize the pattern. One of the primary symptoms of uprooting is not realizing that one is doing it. Therefore, the the most important step is to become aware of what's happening. Trace back your steps over the past few years. How many places have you moved or worked? Then figure out what is driving you why what is driving you away from each new things you find. Next, you need to get clear on what you really want. Sometimes uprooting occurs because we step too quickly towards what we think we want. Only find that we didn't think it we didn't think it through and don't really want that thing very much. Clarity is key because you are thinking long term now. What would it look like to choose one place to live, then then build then build connections there? What would it look like to work at the same place and move up in your position or build your business? Remember that healing from an uprooting pattern is not about selling for something you don't want. Nor is it about staying in an unsafe or unhealthy situation because you don't want to move again. It's about getting clear and determined on what's the right path for you, and then making a plan for how you can thrive, not just survive. When the moment comes that you would typically flee, confront the discomfort and stay where you are. Figure out why you are uncomfortable getting attached to one thing or another, and determine what a healthy attachment would look like for you. Next thing is perfectionism. When we when we expect when we expect that our work must be perfect the first time we do it, we ended up getting into a cycle of perfectionism isn't actually wanting everything to be right. It is not a good thing. In fact, it is a hindering thing, because because it sets up unrealistic explanation about what we are capable of or what the outcomes of our lives could be. Perfectionism holds us back from showing up and trying, or and trying or really doing the important work of our life. This happens Because when we are afraid of failing or feeling vulnerable or not being as good as we want others to think we are, we end up avoiding the work that is required to actually become that good. We sabotage ourselves because it is the willingness to show up and simply do it again and again and again that ultimately brings us to a place of mastery. Then how to resolve it? Don't about sorry. Don't worry about doing it well. Just do it. Don't worry about writing a bestseller. Just write. Don't worry about making Grammy winning hit. Just just make music. Don't worry about failing. Just keep showing up and trying. At first, all that matter is that you do what you really want to do. From there you can learn from mistakes and over time get to the place where you really want to be. The truth is that we actually do not accomplish great feats when we are anxious about whether or not what we do will indeed be something impressive and world changing. We accomplish these sorts of things when we simply show up and allow ourselves to create something meaningful and important to us. Instead of instead instead of perfection instead of perfection focus on progress. Instead of having something done perfectly, focus on just getting it done. From there you can edit, build, grow and develop it to exactly what your version is. But if you don't get started, you will never arrive. Limited 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 emotional processing skills. In life uh, uh, in life in life there are going to be people, situations and circumstances that are upsetting, that are upsetting, uh, infuriating, saddening and even in ragging. There will likewise be people, situations and circumstances that are inspiring, hopeful, helpful and truly offer purpose and meaning in your life. When you are only able to process half of your emotions, you stunt yourself. You start going out of your way to avoid any possible situation that could bring up something frustrating or uncomfortable, because you have no tools to be able to handle that feeling. This means that you start avoiding the very risks and actions that would ultimately change your life for the better. In addiction, an inability to process your emotions means you get stuck with them. You sit you sit and dwell on your anger and sadness because you don't know how to make them go away. When we can only process half of our emotions, we ultimately we ultimately only live half of the life we really want to. Then how to resolve it? uh, healthy emotional processing looks different for everyone, but gradually involves these steps. Get clear on what happened, validate your feelings, determine a course correction. First you need to understand why you are upset, or the reason why something is bothering you so much. Without clarity, I repeat again, without clarity on this, you will continue to waste your time mulling over the details without really understanding what's hurting you so much. Next you have to validate how you feel. Recognize that you are not alone. Anyone in your situation would probably feel similarly and does, and and that what you feel is absolutely okay. In doing this, you can allow yourself a physical release, such as crying, shaking, journaling about what you feel, or or taking to trusted friend. Once you're clear on what's wrong and have allowed yourself to fully express the extent of your emotion, you can determine how you will change your behavior or thought process so that you can get an outcome that you really want in the future. Now, justification. Your life is ultimately measured by your outcome, not your intentions. It is not about what you wanted to do or would have done, but didn't have the time. It is not about why you thought you couldn't. It's just whether or not you eventually did it. When you are in a pattern of self-sabotaging behavior, you are often treating those excuses the same way you could treat measurable outcomes. You are using them to making yourself feel momentarily satisfied, using them as replacement for the accomplishment itself. When we have a goal, dream, or plan, there is no measure of intent. It is only whether you did it or don't. Any other person you offer for not showing up and doing the work is simply and doing the work is simply you stating that you prioritizing that reason over your ultimate ambition, which means that it will always take precedence in your life. You may also be using excuses to help native away from uncomfortable feelings that are ultimately necessary for your growth. Now, how you resolve this? Start measuring your outcomes and focusing on at least doing one productive thing each day. It is no longer about how many days you really wanted to go to the gym. It's about how many days you did. It's no longer about wanting to show up for your friends. It's whether or not you did. It's no longer about the great ideas you had about how to change your business. It's about whether or not you did. Stop accepting stop accepting stop accept stop accepting your own excuses. Stop being complacent with your own justifications. Start quantifying your days by how many healthy positive things you accomplished, and you will see how quickly you begin to make progress. Now, disorganization. By living our lives and spaces in this area, we are not just mindlessly forgetting to take care of our surroundings. We are often actually creating distractions and chaos that serve an unconscious purpose. A clean organized space, both for work and for living, is essential to thriving. This means a tidy home, clothes that are easy to reach and put together each morning, a clean kitchen, and an organized desk. Paperwork should be filled in one space. Your bedroom should be calming, and everything should have home that it can return to at the end of the day. At the end of the day, sorry. Without cleanliness, we create fewer opportunities for our lives. Nothing positive, not beautiful, flows from chaos. Flows from chaos. Deep down, we know this. Often, we are self-sabotaging through disorganization. It is because when we are very clean or organized, we get an uneasy feeling. The uneasy feeling is what we are trying to avoid, because it is the recognition that now that everything is in order. We must get to work on doing what we need to do or who we want to become. When when we leave our spaces messy, we are always too few tasks or prioritize away from stepping out and showing up. Then how to resolve it? Like anything, you need to start slow and adjust yourself over time. To declutter to declutter and recognize, start with one room, and if that is too much, try one corner, drawer or closest. Work work on that and only that, and then implement a routine that maintains the organization. From there from from there from there start arranging your space so that it works for you, not against you. Put something soothing on your bedside table, like a diffuser, or create an organized family calendar in the kitchen, so appointments and schedules are visible to others. If you have trouble with the mail being disorganized, create a spot for it to go when it comes in each day. If you have trouble with laundry being disorganized, create a system for it and decide on a day or two that you do the wash and do it in bulk. You must you, you must slow you, you must slow you must slowly let yourself get used to working at a clean desk, and eventually it will become second nature. You will be you will you will you will be realize that you also feel so much less stressed and much more in control of your life. It is very hard to show up as the person you want to be when you are surrounded by an environment that makes you feel like a person you are not. Attachment to what you don't really want. Sometimes your dreams sometimes your dreams for your life and adapted from other people's preferences. In other cases, you determine what you want and then you outgrow your own ambitions. Sometimes sometimes we find endlessly to try to force ourselves to want something that we do not really want, and it always leaves us empty because it isn't a genuine desire. This is different than lacking motivation or experiencing resistance. Our inability to perform is not based in fear of lack of skill. It is based in an inherent knowing that this is not what we want for our lives, and perhaps we are feeling lost or unable to change our paths. When you find yourself struggling with something, you have to ask yourself, do I actually want to do this? Do you want the job, or do you just like how the title sounds? Are you in love with the person, or do you like the idea of the relationship? Are you still holding an outdated idea of what your greatest success will be? And if so, what would it look like to let that go? At the end of the day, self sabotage sometimes functions to show us that we aren't quite on the right path yet, and 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 that we need to reevaluate to determine what would feel best for our lives, even even if that means we disappoint some people, or even your younger selves. We do not we do not we do not have to leave we do not have to live the rest of our lives trying to achieve some measure of success we thought was ideal when we are too young to understand who we are. Our only responsibility is to make decisions for the person we have become. Now, how to resolve it? Be willing, be willing, be willing to accept that maybe our success story doesn't look the way that you once thought it might. Maybe, maybe maybe the kind of success you are really hungry for it is sorry is to feel at peace each day, or making your life about traveling instead of work. Maybe it's about having thriving friendships or a happy relationship. Maybe the business you got into 10 years ago isn't the business you want to be in forever. Maybe the work you thought you would love isn't coming as naturally to you as you'd hoped. When we let go of what isn't right for us, we create space to discover what is. However, doing so requires the tremendous courage to put our pride aside and see things what they really are. Now, judging others. We all know that gossiping and sorry we all know that gossiping or judging other people's lives and choices is not a healthy or positive way to connect with other people. However, it does far more damage than we realize, as it sets up barriers to our own success. If we feel uh, if we uh, if we feel bad about not being as successful as another person, we might try to find something negative about them to make ourselves feel better. If we do that, every time we come across a person who is more successful than we are, we being to associate we being to associate that level of success with being disliked. When it comes time for us to take action to move our lives forward, we are going to resist doing it, because becoming more successful will create a breach in our self concept. In other cases, you might have heard heard people you grew up around about villainizing others who had money. They might have said things like rich people are the worst. Maybe maybe they maybe the jo- maybe the chalked all wealthy people up to being morally corrupt. This this sweeping characterization sealed itself in your subconscious, and now you find yourself sabotaging your own attempts to become financially healthy, because you associated it with guilt and being disliked. When we when we set up judgments for when we set up judgments for others, they become rules that we have to play by too. By judging others for what we don't have, or because we envy them, we sabotage our own lives far more than we ever really hurt anybody else. Then, how to resolve it? Many people say that you have to love yourself first before you can love others. But really, if you learn to love others, you will learn to love yourself. Other sorry, practice non-judgment through non-assumption, instead of reaching a con, instead of reaching a conclusion about a person based on the limited information you have about them. Consider that you are not seeing the whole picture and don't know the whole story. When you are more when when you are more compassionate about other people's life, about other people's lives, you become more compassionate about your own. When you see someone who has something you want, congratulate them. Even if it feels hard at first, it will extend back and open you up to receiving it as well. The next section is pride. Okay. Pride. Pride is pride is often involved in many of our worst decisions. Sometimes we know a relationship is wrong, but the shame of living seems worse than staying. Sometimes we start a business and realize we don't really like it very much, or refuse to accept that what we need to change, or ask for help. In these cases, our pride is getting in the way. We are making decisions based on how we imagine people view our lives, not how they actually are. This is not only inaccurate, but it is so but it is also very unhealthy and dangerous. How to resolve it? To overcome to overcome attachment to pride, we have to start to see ourselves more holy and honestly. Okay. Instead of thinking that we need to prove to everyone around us how perfect and flawless we are, we can imagine ourselves more realistically, as people who, despite our weaknesses, are trying our best. In the end, it looks far worse to hold on to what's wrong because you care about what others think, then it is to let go, because that's what's right for you. People will respect you far more if you can acknowledge that you are an imperfect person, like everyone else, learning, adapting, and trying your best. In reaching this mindset, you open yourself up to learning, by by not by not assume by not assuming you know everything, or that you need to seem perfect. You can admit when you are wrong, ask for assistance, and lean on others sometimes. Basically, you open yourself back up to grow, and your life is better for more it over the long term. Guilt of succeeding. In a world so much in a world guilt guilt of succeeding in a world of so much pain, horror, and misfortune, who are we have happy abundant lives? That's the thought process. uh, that's the thought process that you mean that so many people go through. One of the biggest mental barriers people face is the guilt that comes with finally having enough, or more than one needs. This can come from many different sources, but it ultimately boils down to feeling as though you don't deserve to have it. This feeling often comes up when we start to earn more money, or have nicer things. Often people will sabotage their higher incomes with reckless dis, 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 discretion discretionary 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 spending, on by being less on by being less vigilant about the clientele, or or workload, because they are not quite comfortable having more than the basic necessities, and so they put themselves back into a comfortable feeling of lack. When it comes to success, guilt is an unfortunately common emotion, especially for good-hearted people who want to do the right things and live authentic lives. How to resolve this? Please please realize that most extremely successful people have no guilt whatsoever. In fact, this feeling actually only comes up when you are stepping between not having enough and finally having enough. What you have to realize that money and success are tools. They buy you back time and offer you the opportunity to help, employ, influence, and change the lives of others. Instead of looking at your success as a status as a status differentiator, which which will always makes you feel bad and uncomfortable. See it instead as a tool with which you can do important and positive things in the world and your own life. Fear Now, fear of feeling. How often, how often, how often do we, how often, how often, fearing of failing. How often do we not even attempt something because we are afraid to look bad or failing immediately. The fear of failing is often something that holds people back from putting in the work they would need to become truly great at something. But it can also take another more insidious form. Once once we have established something new in our lives, this fear this fear come up as a constant irrational worry that we are missing something, that our partner is being unfaithful, or that we are one misstep away from losing it all. They, this these catastrophic thoughts happen they, these catastrophic thoughts happen when we want to shield ourselves from potential loss. They only come up when we finally have something we care enough about and really want to keep. Then how to resolve this? There there is there is there is there is a difference between failing because you trying something new and daring, and failing because you are not showing up, doing the work, or being responsible for your own actions. These are these these are two very different experiences and should be separated in your mind. As scary as it might be not be great at something initially, or perhaps even experience a loss. It is even worse, even it is worse to fail by virtue of never trying and always playing small. Failure is inevitable, but you have to make sure it is happening for the right reasons. When we fell out of when when we fell out of when we fail out of negligence, we take a step back. When we fail because we are attempting new feats, we take one step closer to what will work. Now, downplaying. When we sorry Now, downplaying. When we downplay our success in life, we are either trying to make ourselves seem less impressive, so others don't feel threatened and therefore like us more, or we are trying to avoid this sense that we have made it because we are afraid of peaking. though though so though so many of us long for the moment when we feel as though we have finally arrived and achieved the measure and achieved the measures of success we measure of success we so deeply desire, we often receive them only to then feel as though they aren't that great, impressive, or that they don't make us feel as good as we thought they would. This happens because of downplaying. The idea of having made it makes us afraid that we are reaching the principle and therefore will fall off of it. If we acknowledge that we have arrived, what goals remain? It is feeling akin to death. So we instead find another measure to work toward. Likewise, when we are around other people, we do not stand firmly in our pride because we are taught it is a bad thing, and when done in an unhealthy way, it is. When we are when we are sensing is the feeling of being better than other because because we have achieved something. This makes us uncomfortable because we know it's both untrue and unkind. How to resolve this? We can all acknowledge and appreciate other people diverse accomplishments and talents while still being happy about our own. Instead of instead of sugaring instead of sugaring instead of shrugging off a compliment, we can respond to we can respond by saying thank you, I worked very hard and I am happy to be there. If if the if the fear is that we are peaking too soon, we have to reform our idea of progress. We do not get better only by to get worse again. We do not achieve one thing only to lose it and return to what we were what we before. That instinct is self-sabotaging behavior, one that wants to keep us within our old comfort zone. Instead of instead instead we can acknowledge that when one part of our life improves, it it radiates it radiates out to everything else. When we achieve one thing, we are better equipped for the future. Life tends to gradually get better as we keep working on it. It only gets worse. It only gets worse. It only get it only gets worse if we accomplish something then shut down because we are we are we are intimidated by our own power. Now, unhealthy habits. This is the most common way that people sabotage their own success by maintaining habits that are actively keeping them away from their goals. This is when someone declares that they want to be they want to be in better shape but doesn't change anything they do each day to facilitate to facilitate that, or 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 when they want to make a change professionally but find ways to make it difficult, if not possible, for them to actually do it. At the core of all these behaviors is all these behaviors is the fact that one part of our psyche understands that we should be evolving and moving forward with our lives, and other part is and other part is intimidated by the potential discomfort it would bring. Usually 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 this culminates this culminates is this this culminates is so much inner tension and frustration that a breaking point is reached and changes are made from them. However, the goal is to not have to get a crisis point in your life before you can become aware of the ways you are holding yourself back from living peacefully and comfortably. Then how to resolve this? Define health. Define health Define health on your own terms. What does a healthy life look like for you? How would it make you feel, and what would be doing? It is difficult to look solely to anyone else's definition of healthfulness, particularly because we are all different people with varying needs, preferences, and schedules. Instead, figure out what makes you feel best. Decide 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 what combination of healthy eating, exercise, and sleep is right for you, and stick to it. So many things, healthy habits are best established gradually. Instead of trying to force yourself to take an hour at the gym at 6 a.m., try instead to do 15 minutes, or perhaps swipe out what a class you really enjoy, or go at a time that works better for your schedule. Make it easy for yourself to succeed. Prepare your meals, or keep water by your desk, so you can sip it throughout the day. Gradually 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 recondition yourself to prefer healthy habits, ones that actually work for your lifestyle. Okay. being busy being busy. Another very common way that people sabotage is by distracting themselves to the point of being completely phased out of their lives. People who are constantly busy are running from themselves. Nobody is busy unless they want to be busy, and you will know that because so many people with extremely hectic because so many people with extremely hectic schedules would never describe themselves that way. This is because being busy is not a virtue. It only signals to others that you do not know how to manage your time or your tasks. Being being busy communicates importance. It often makes you seem a little untouchable to others. It also overwhelms the body, so that it can only focus on the tasks at hand. Being busy in the ultimate way to distract ourselves from what's really wrong. How to resolve this? If you if your if your if your if your schedule is unmanageable, you are never going to be as effective or productive as you could be. If this is the case, your first job has to your first job has to streamline and prioritize your task in order of importance. Outsource whatever else you can, and then let go of the rest. If your issue is if your if your issue is that you intentionally create chaos and busyness in your day when there is no need for it, you have to get comfortable with simplicity and routine. Start with writing down your top 5 tasks that need to be done each day, and then focus on doing those and only those. You might also need confront the sense of protection that being busy gives you. Does it you feel more important than others? Does it give you an excuse to say no to plans, or to avoid some people? You need to find healthier and more productive ways to cope with these feelings, such as finding genuine self confidence in what you do, by creating something you are proud of, or getting better at calmly but clearly starting your boundaries and needs in relationships. Okay, with that, I'll finish this, and next we start with page number 40. The section name is spending time with the wrong people. Till then, assalamu alaikum.